Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope everybody is doing great and fantastic. Dean Kulaweera here. Every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, I'm right here to help you folks out in your job search, all right? With job search tips, advice, strategies, all that good stuff. Make sure you hit me up with a like and follow. If there's anyone in your network that might benefit from today's session, feel free to reshare, and always appreciate the likes. Let me just make sure that all is good on LinkedIn. And yes, looks like I am live. So that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so today, again, it's going to be an open Q&A. So any questions you have job search related, feel free to put it in the comments. Shout out on Instagram to Pia and Krunal for tuning in. Good to see you folks here. Hey, Krunal, hope you're doing great, and thanks so much for tuning in. So look, if this is your first time tuning in, make sure you follow me and subscribe for more job search related content. Shout out to everyone on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well. I'm here to answer your questions. Anything job search or recruitment related, feel free to put it in the comments. I'm happy to share my perspective on it and help you folks out in your job search. Right now, quick heads up. Just wanted to quickly announce a couple of events. And in the meantime, again, don't be shy. Feel free to introduce yourself in the comments. We got a couple of people here commenting. So we got Sparrow on YouTube. Hey, Sparrow, good to see you here. Thanks so much for tuning in and appreciate your comment. I hope you're doing great. We got Haki in the house. Hey, Haki, good to see you here. Always good to see you here. Hope you're doing great, man, and that you're keeping well. And we got Sheikh in the house. Sheikh, I see your question. I'm going to get to your question shortly, all right? And same thing for those of you on Instagram. Feel free to put in your questions in the comments. So a couple of quick announcements, all right, for everyone. Before I get started into today's topic, I'm going to kick it off with talking about how to respond to talking about your weaknesses. Okay, because this is maybe not so much a very common question nowadays, but you might get asked this question. Talk about your weaknesses, talk about your shortcomings. What are some areas that you need to improve on? So I'm going to really quickly talk about a tip I have for all of you on how to respond to that question or those types of questions. But before I get into that, some quick announcements, a couple of events going on this week that I'm going to be a part of. So this for those of you who are on Instagram, this Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, I'm going to be doing a Q&A with my friend Sahil. He runs a great YouTube and Instagram channel called Your Average Guide. So follow at Your Average Guide on Instagram, and that goes for you, all of you on Instagram as well. Follow Sahil. His account again is at Your Average Guide. I'm going to be going live with him on his account. It's going to be this Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time zone. So basically Friday, same time as right now. It's going to be on Friday, especially if you're an international student in Canada who is specialized in IT or even anyone else for that matter. It doesn't matter. Like I'm going to be there to answer your questions. I'll be sharing my perspective as a recruiter. So make sure you take advantage of that. And the other event is if you're on the Clubhouse app, okay, on Saturday, 12 o'clock Eastern time zone, on Saturday, I'm going to be joining the Supply Chain Jobs Canada group on Clubhouse. All right. So I don't have a link for this right now, and there's no I'm not sure of the username and all that stuff. But if you want the link, just send me a direct message or just let me know. And I'm going to be joining the Supply Chains Job Canada Clubhouse room on Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time zone. So you don't have to be in supply chain to benefit from this conversation. Again, if you're outside of supply chain, obviously I don't. I mean, I'm not even a supply chain recruiter, right? I'm an IT recruiter, but I'm going to be joining that group, and I'm going to be there to answer and talk about. It's going to be myself and a couple of other panelists. We're going to be talking about, just job search strategy, right, from start to finish. And there's going to be a couple of other people there. Great networking opportunity as well. Would love to interact with you folks on audio. So and also Clubhouse is no longer invite only. Like, it doesn't matter if you're on Android, iPhone, whatever you have, it's open to everyone now. And also, you don't need an invite. You don't need invite, and it's open to, it's not just for iPhone people as well. So all right, so see you on at that event as well. Krunal says, your average guy, cool, please post on the Insta status. So, yeah, Krunal, I will post it on my Instagram as well. But yeah, hope to see you there as well, Krunal. All right. So, folks, also one more thing. Yeah, sorry, one more thing. Just to give you a heads up for those of you in tech, what I'm recruiting on right now, a top role that I'm recruiting on right now is I'm looking for an IT solutions consultant. This is a full-time role. It's for one of my clients that is an IT solutions provider themselves. They're looking for someone who, and by the way, this is a delivery role. So what they're looking for really is someone who comes from a strong network engineering, network analysis, network design background, very technical person who has now progressed, and they're at a point in their career where they're more interested in or more involved in the delivery side of things as a solutions consultant, right? So this is very much a customer facing role. Ideally, someone who has their CCIE, or if not CCIE, if you have a CCNP, might be able to move you forward as well for this role. Full-time permanent position. It's currently 100% remote, but eventually we'll move into more of a hybrid setup. All right. So just if you or someone might be interested, if that sounds like you, and also the other thing is you do have to be eligible for secret level government clearance. All right. So just keep that in mind and let me know if that sounds like you or someone Send me a direct message. All right. So moving on. So before I get into the questions, so feel free to keep the questions coming, folks, in the comments. I will pay attention to that. But let me talk about today's topic, all right? And what I wanted to talk about today, and what I wanted to leave you all with in terms of a quick tip and strategy you can implement into your interviews is how do you talk about your weaknesses, right? This is a I'd say fairly common question, maybe not so common nowadays, but this is something you might get asked at some point, right? What are your weaknesses? What is the top weakness that you have? What are some shortcomings you have? What are some areas of improvement that you have right now, right? So there are different variations of this question, and people always ask me, Dean, why do companies even ask this question? Like, aren't they kind of putting us on the spot? Aren't they kind of making us talk about less than desirable traits that we have, or things that we're not really good at? So how do you address this question, folks? Because you will probably get asked this question at some point. Now, before I get into how you respond to this question, let me tell you, this is actually a very, very exciting question. And I personally, when I've been a job seeker, I really look forward to this question. And I'm always hoping, I hope they ask me about my weaknesses, because this question is actually a huge opportunity. So if nothing else, I want you to leave today's session with a completely new mindset about this whole topic, about talking about your weaknesses, your shortcomings, and all that stuff. Now, something I definitely want to kind of, in terms of laying the groundwork here, something I want you to know is the weakness itself is less important than the actual two components I want you to really hit on when you're responding to this question. And by the way, hit me up with a like and share if you haven't already. I definitely want more people to hear about this topic because it's so important. Many of you are not taking advantage of this question, and you're focusing only on the weakness, or you're trying to come up with some witty response to this, right? And if you're doing that, by the way, don't feel bad. Like none of us were taught how to respond to this question. But definitely hit me up with a like and a share. But look, to kind of set the groundwork is, again, the weakness itself is less important than the two components I want all of you to hit when you're responding to this question. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is the weakness itself is not the primary factor that the interviewer is really evaluating when they're asking you this question. Here are the two things they're really looking for, folks. All right. And it's very simple. This is not something complex. This is something each and every one of you watching this will be able to apply right after this session to your interviews. All right. And the two components the interviewer is looking for is, number one, they're looking for your level of self-awareness. Okay, they're checking you for self-awareness. They want to see how self-aware you are. Are you someone that's really aware of your actual weaknesses or areas that you need to improve on, or things that you need to work on, right? Shout out to Ganesh Sai on Instagram who just joined in. Feel free to put in any questions you have in the comments, Ganesh. I'm talking about how you should be responding to weaknesses on at your interviews. All right. So component number one is, and what the interviewer is really looking at is, how self-aware is this person? How self-aware are they? Or are they going to come up with some BS response, right? Some BS response, as in, something. And I know there's a lot of bad advice out there in terms of, hey, if you're getting asked about your weaknesses, don't talk about your weaknesses. Talk about a strength, but make it appear like a weakness, and then turn it into a strength. Or just talk about something very positive about yourself and just speak about it like it's a weakness. Bad advice, folks. All right, it's bad advice. Recruiters, hiring managers, interviewers, we hear these types of responses all day long, and it just makes us internally roll our eyes. All right. So the first thing they're looking for is self-awareness. How self-aware are you? And the second thing they're looking at is, well, okay, you're self-aware, you have certain weaknesses that you're aware of that you've told us about, but the second component is, well, what steps are you taking? What initiative are you taking in addressing these areas of weakness or improvement from your end? Because it's one thing to be aware of what areas we need to improve on, right? Like I can think of like several areas right now that I need to improve on as a recruiter, as a sales professional, and all that stuff. But that's just one thing. The second thing is, okay, fine. Dean has certain weaknesses and areas he needs to improve on, but what steps is he taking to improve on these areas? That's the other second extremely important component that they're looking to evaluate, right? So Krunal says, haha, yeah, I used to do it when I was fresher. Making strength a weakness, worst idea. Yeah, you know what, Krunal? I used to do this all the time as well. When I was a new graduate, when I was new in my field, in my career, I mean, look, folks, all of us do this. And unfortunately, no one teaches us these things, right? No one teaches us, hey, do not come up with some lame response for it like that. Like, just keep it real. Just be upfront with the hiring team, with the interviewer. So those are the two things that the interviewer is really looking for, folks, is number one, your level of self-awareness. And number two, what steps have you taken to address this area of weakness or these areas that you need or require improvement on? And number three, which is a bonus. This might not be applicable to everyone, but if you can do this third component, you're going to be like, it's pretty much, I mean, you're going to create such a great impression on the hiring team or the interviewer. So number three, which is the bonus thing, is if you can show measurable end results, outcomes that show that you have made an actual improvement. I'm talking percentages, increases in revenue, cost savings, time savings, whatever it is. If you can demonstrate that, which would be a third component, I mean, you're going to create such a great impression, despite the fact that you're actually talking about a weakness. So you need to hit on number one, the self-awareness. Are you self-aware enough to actually understand what your areas of improvement or weaknesses are? That's number one. But you're not going to leave it at that, because if you only talk about your weakness, that's not good enough, folks. Number two is you got to show what steps and initiatives you have taken to address this area of weakness. Okay, so yeah, my weakness is XYZ. These are some of the things that I'm doing right now to address this area of weakness that I'm working on. And then number three is the bonus one, is outcomes that you have, based on number two, you've taken steps to address these areas of weakness. But this has now led to number three, which is actual measurable results that you've achieved as a result of taking the initiative to address these areas of weakness. So that's the third component, folks. If you can show that third component, I mean, it's going to be amazing, right? You're going to create such a great impression. So what you want to do is, if they ask, hey, Dean, so what is an area of weakness that you have? So you might say, hey, so an area of weakness I have is, I don't know, maybe an area of weakness you have is, and feel free to put any examples you want in the comments, folks. But an area of weakness might be, let's say, I'm not good at, I don't know. I'm not good at using Microsoft Word. Let's say that's an area of weakness that I have. Okay, I know it's a very simple, basic one, but let's just go with it. I'm just going to give you an example as to how you can deal with these things. All right. So an area of weakness I have is I'm not very good with advanced functions within Microsoft Word. That's number one. That's my weakness. Now, number two, I want to show what I've done to address this. So in order for me to address this area of weakness, what I've been doing is I've been taking some courses on Microsoft Word. I actually signed up for such and such course, and it covers not only the basics but also the advanced stuff. And I've been learning a lot of advanced features and functions within Microsoft Word. And the bonus number three, actual measurable outcomes and end results. And as a result of me taking these courses and really improving myself in this area, it has resulted in me being able to complete more projects using Microsoft Word, and I've been able to save a lot of time for my team and my manager as a result of me being able to use these complex functions and features within Microsoft Word, resulting in more saved time and blah blah blah, whatever. I know that's a bit of a sloppy example, but hey, I'm just thinking about this off the top of my head. But you folks get the idea, right? Mention an actual weakness. Number two, show what steps you've been taking to address this weakness or this area that needs improvement. And ideally, if you can, number three would be actual measurable results as a result of you taking the initiative in addressing this area of weakness or whatever area of improvement that you have, right? So when you're responding to these questions, folks, and it could be any variation of this, what are your weaknesses? What are some areas of improvement you have? What are some challenges you're currently facing in your role and all that stuff? So if you can do that, then if you can address these three areas, then that's going to put you in a much more positive light when you're talking about these weaknesses and these areas that require improvement. All right. So look, hope that helps. Let me know in the comments. We got some questions here. I think from Pia. So Pia on Instagram says, as a recruiter, at times to close positions to meet urgency of those roles, we are bound to overlook certain negatives of a candidate. What's your perspective? Yeah, absolutely, Pia. Right. I mean, obviously you can. I mean, the perfect candidate does not exist, right? So as long as I think the candidate meets the core requirements for the role, obviously, I mean, there's going to be things that might be considered less than desirable or negatives that you are or should be willing to overlook for sure, right? Because as long as they meet the core requirements for the role, I mean, any reasonable recruiter, any reasonable hiring manager, hiring team, interviewer is going to overlook maybe some of the shortcomings, right? So absolutely, I agree with you on that. Then Pia says, if you have already been able to overcome your weakness, then how could it be your weakness anymore? Yeah, well, Pia, I'm not talking about 100% overcoming the weakness. What I'm saying here is that you're taking steps to overcome the weakness. And as a result of that, you're already experiencing positive results, right? So maybe you haven't reached your full potential in this area that you're trying to improve. However, you have this weakness. You're not perfect in this area at all, right? At least not yet. You're taking steps to improve this area. And number three is you're seeing measurable results as a result of you putting in the effort to improve this area, and you're continuing to improve this area, right? So hope that makes sense, Pia. And Krunal says it's what action you're taking. You have not overcome, but you are trying to overcome. But you're right. Good point to keep in mind. Yeah, exactly, Krunal, right? It's not that you're 100%, it's not that you've mastered this area, but the fact is you've taken the initiative, you're putting in the effort to address this area, and you're starting to see results already. So that's why I said number three is kind of like a bonus area. If you can talk about results that you're getting because you're addressing this area. But even if you can't do that third thing, just make sure you do number two, which is what steps you're taking to address this area that you're trying to work on. All right. So Pia says, got it. Okay, awesome, Pia. All right. So let's go back to people over here and on LinkedIn. So Sheikh says, hi, how do I get a job from outside of Canada? Any chance for software quality assurance? Look, Sheikh, so to be very frank with you, Sheikh, trying to get a job while you're outside of Canada is definitely going to be a challenge. In most cases, recruiters, hiring teams, interviewers, they're going to be looking for people already on the ground over here who don't require sponsorship. They don't require a valid legal work permit and all that stuff. So what I suggest to you, Sheikh, is start building your network right now. Start building your network of contacts right now. And you're going to be in a better position to apply for jobs after you've relocated and you've arrived here in Canada. That's when you're going to be in a much better position to apply for jobs and be considered for positions over here. Because the fact is, it's just an additional component, right? If you require sponsorship, you're in a different time zone, you're in a totally different location. It's a much tougher sell, especially for recruiters. So don't lose. I'm not discouraging you, by the way, but all I'm saying is build your network, start making your contacts, start making your connections, and they're going to be in a better position to help you after you relocated here physically, right? You're in Canada, you're in Toronto, wherever it is. So hope that helps, Sheikh, and all the best. Peter says there was an HR conference in my country, and as a spinoff, there were discussions on LinkedIn that cover letters shouldn't be needed, and HR pros promote to other HR people to avoid asking cover letters and encourage applicants to avoid sending cover letters as they are useless. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, my perspective on this, Peter, as a recruiter. I mean, I personally, and I've and again, full disclosure, I've 100% been working in the recruitment industry, the staffing industry, recruitment agencies, right? That's all of my recruitment experience has been in working in recruitment agencies. And yeah, I mean, as a recruitment agency, as a staffing agency recruiter, I always skip over the cover letter. I don't even bother reading the cover letter. So, and that's something I've observed from most of my colleagues as well. Now, there might be some recruiters out there that actually do you take the time to read cover letters, but for the most part, we skip the cover letter and we go straight to the actual resume itself. And the reason for that is recruiters are primarily focused on skills, experience, projects, and that kind of stuff. The cover letter usually has candidates talking about their career history, their story, and all that stuff. Most recruiters are not interested in hearing your story. They want to skip all of that and go straight into, do you have the right skills? Do you have the right experience? Do you have the right industry experience? Do you have the right projects? That's what recruiters are looking for. So I can't speak on behalf of all HR professionals out there, but on behalf of recruiters, I can say for the most part, recruiters do skip cover letters and go straight to the actual resume itself. All right. So hope that helps. So Peter says, how can we be self-aware? How can we have a clear picture of ourselves? Yeah, so that's a good question, right? So Peter's asking, hey, Dean, so you're saying be self-aware, but how can you be self-aware? Well, I think for most of us, Peter, unless you're a full-fledged, like, psychopath or sociopath, which I'm sure is not the case for most of us out there. I think most of us are self-aware where we have areas that require improvement, right? And I think this really takes taking an honest look at our work on a day-to-day basis. Like, what are some areas that we really excel in versus what are some areas that we kind of struggle in, right? Or what are some areas that we could require some improvement on? And also it could come down to just your annual performance review. Maybe it's an annual review, maybe it's a quarterly or monthly review you have with your manager. I think a good manager would bring to your attention areas that require improvement, right? So if nothing else, these are some avenues that you can use to really bring to your attention some areas that you're aware of, or that you can be brought aware of, that require improvement, that you can actually talk about at your interviews as well. But before you even talk about it, of course, make sure you take those steps to address those areas that require improvement. All right. So hope that helps, Peter. Great question there. Great question. And let's see here. So we got Sparrow, my friend Sparrow on YouTube. So Sparrow says, which candidate will you prefer over the other with no professional experience? Candidate with 2 years postgraduate diploma in business analytics from Cape Breton University willing to relocate? Or candidate number 2, 1 year's postgraduate diploma in business analytics and 1 year PGD in financial technology from Seneca College, willing to relocate if required? That's a very specific question, Sparrow, but I love it. I love that question. By the way, Sparrow, if I'm not sure if you follow me on Instagram or any of my other social channels, but just because you asked that great question, I want to hook you up with my PDF, How to Run a Recruiter Through Your Resume. So DM me on Instagram and just remind me of that. I'll send you that PDF because it's such a great question. Same thing goes to Peter as well as Sheikh as well. Send me a direct message. Just remind me. I'd love to hook you guys up with my PDF. All right, for asking great questions. So yeah, Sparrow, going back to your question, Sparrow. So look, here's the thing, all right, and I actually responded to a post about this on LinkedIn recently as well. And look, the thing is, folks, that recruiters are not the ones who determine the requirements, right? The recruiters get their requirements in terms of what they're looking for in an ideal candidate. It's all 100% from the hiring team, because the recruiter does not make the hiring decision, right? And the reason why I mentioned this, Sparrow, is in relation to your specific situation. It depends. It depends on the hiring team, right? I mean, if the hiring team says, "Hey, we prefer someone from scenario 1, which is we prefer someone who has a postgraduate diploma specifically in business analytics," then that's what the recruiter is going to lean more towards. They're going to lean towards candidates from category number 1, right? But maybe the hiring manager prefers someone in category number 2, right? Which you mentioned, Sparrow, which is 1 year's postgraduate diploma in business analytics and whatever this, all that stuff. So it comes down to the hiring manager, really. So always remember this, folks, for those of you tuning in, right? I know it's frustrating when recruiters say, "Oh, we're looking for this, we're looking for this, we're looking for this." Recruiters 100% get their requirements from the hiring team, right? And I know that a lot of you feel frustrated at recruiters when they're too adamant and too specific about their requirements. But the fact is, we operate based on requirements from the hiring team. Otherwise, I mean, hey, recruiters would be happy to consider as many people as possible. It just makes our jobs easier, right? But the thing is, that when we're really specific about something, it usually comes down to the hiring manager, right? And Sparrow, just to give you an example, like I've worked with hiring teams that are adamant about people with specific degrees or specific diplomas from very specific schools, universities, and colleges. And then I remember working with hiring managers who prefer people. Like I'm just thinking of an example recently where I was actually recruiting on a role where the hiring manager told me, Dean, I do not want anyone with a master's degree. I don't want any master's people. People with master's degree don't do well in this company, et cetera, et cetera, right? And hey, you know what? It's not up to me to go against that, right? Because the hiring manager says, "Hey, Dean, this is my need. This is what I'm looking for in an ideal candidate." So guess what? As a recruiter, when I'm going out there, I'm not going to look for people with master's degrees or who have done their MBA or masters or something of that sort. Not because I have anything against people with MBAs and masters, but because the hiring manager said, Dean, I don't want anyone with a master's degree and an MBA for whatever reason, right? Maybe whether that reason is right or wrong. That's what they're looking for, right? So it comes down to what the requirements of the hiring manager is, right? So hope that helps, Sparrow, and appreciate you tuning in. We got Krunal on Instagram. Krunal says, tell me about your weaknesses. It also depends on what are the talks that you have been doing so far. Do you agree? Like we are talking day-to-day things and I say, I don't know Microsoft Office, that's awkward. Yeah, Krunal, for sure. I mean, context matters, right? When you're talking about your weaknesses, context definitely matters. I mean, if you're talking about something to do with, I don't know, like maybe a major project or something, you don't want to talk about like, the little stuff as weaknesses, right? The context definitely has to matter, and it definitely depends on what the project entails and what's important to the hiring team. You want to talk about weaknesses where you can show that you're making improvements, and that will not affect the project that they want to consider you for, right? So definitely that's a great point there, Kruno. So we got someone here, and it says LinkedIn user, so I'm not sure who this person is, but shout out to this person, and they say, thank you for taking the time to answer our queries, Dean. Hey, no problem, no worries, my pleasure. Is it considered a negative thing to deny any offers for which you are approached by a recruiter, even when you are not in the market? Does it affect the relationship with the firm recruiter in the future? Thanks again. Yeah, so this is a great question. So what this person is asking is, hey, Dean, look, basically what they're saying is, look, if I'm not on the market right now, Dean, and a recruiter approaches me about an opportunity and I say, hey, I'm not interested right now, what this person is asking is, does it affect the relationship with the firm or the recruiter in the future? And I would say absolutely not, right? I mean, unless it's a recruiter that's like totally screwed up in the totally screwed up in the head, right? They hate their job, they're just fed up, they've had and they're just not thinking straight. I mean, with exception to that, I mean, 99.9% of recruiters out there will not take it negatively. It's not a negative thing. Like, we understand. Look, folks, recruiters face more rejection in 1 hour talking to candidates than anyone else probably on this planet. All right. So we get used to it. We develop this. It's a muscle we develop every day. Well, we're not expecting every single candidate out there to even like us, for that matter, to like us or want to talk to us, or let alone be interested in the role, right? So 99.9% of recruiters out there will absolutely not take it negatively. It's not a bad thing. And look, if nothing else, recruiters will appreciate your honesty and your transparency, right? Now, for this person, if you want to develop a relationship with this recruiter for the future, I mean, just let them know. So if I reach out to you, you might say, hey, Dean, appreciate you reaching out. I'm not on the market right now, but would love for us to keep in touch. And hey, you know what? A couple of months down the line, if you do come across something, feel free to run it by me in the future. Or you might say, hey, Dean, I'm not actively looking right now, but look, I'm always open to hearing about new opportunities. This and this and this and this is what I'm looking for in my next career move. If you happen to come across anything like that, definitely feel free to reach out. So look, I mean, it's perfectly fine if you're not interested and not looking right now, folks. But if you want the recruiter to keep reaching out to you and keeping in touch, definitely let them know, right? Definitely let them know. They can add you to their hot list. Oftentimes, recruiters have what's called a candidate hot list, which is, let's say we're recruiting in specific areas and we've come across certain candidates who have great skills, great experience. We add them to that list, and then whenever a role comes up in that area, we just go through these hot lists, right? Okay, I'm looking, I got a QA role come up. Okay, I'm going to call all the QAs I know in that hot list. Okay, I got a PM role come up. I'm going to go through my PM hot list. I'm going to call all those candidates that I've been networking with in that hot list, right? Not saying every recruiter out there does that, but what I'm saying is this is typically what might happen, all right? Krunal on Instagram says, yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Hey, no worries, Krunal. Always and appreciate you you tuning in. And Peter, sorry, let me go to so whoever asked this question on LinkedIn, let me know if that was helpful, and hope that helps. And Peter says it is advised to create a list for yourself of typical questions and model answers. You might be in stress and nothing comes to mind. Example as a weakness. So it's great to have some nice answers. Yeah, Peter, this is fantastic advice. Totally 100% agree with this. What Peter is saying is, look, when you're at an interview, and I don't care how junior you are, I don't care how senior you are, folks. Anxiety, a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of excitement can result in you forgetting your responses, or at least forgetting what to say right there on the spot. So what my friend Peter is saying is, look, it's good to practice common responses for these types of common questions, right? Weaknesses, maybe your top projects, standout projects, even your strengths. Like you gotta be practicing some responses that you can pull up, so that even if you're a little excited, even if you're a little nervous, maybe a little anxious, you're gonna have it memorized and practiced, right? So that's what Peter is saying here, and that's a great point, Peter. 100% agree with you. This is something I recommend for everyone. And by the way, folks, look, don't take offense, but some of you senior folks out there, you think that, oh, I'm a senior person, I don't need to do this. I've been doing this for a while, I don't need to practice and rehearse. And folks, please do not let your ego get in the way, all right? Peter himself is a senior guy himself, and he's a senior guy, and he's saying, hey, practice and rehearse these typical responses you're going to expect at your interviews, right? Don't let your ego get in the way, folks. And this is coming from Peter, who's a senior guy right here, right? So look, if you're a senior, I don't care if you're a senior, I don't care if you're a senior executive, I don't care if you're a new graduate, entry level, everyone needs to be doing this because it's so useful at your interviews. Because look, anxiety, excitement, nervousness, I mean, these things can come out of nowhere. I don't care how long you've been in your field. So it's better for you to have some practice responses, so you can, even if those emotions come over, you have that framework in place to respond to the question. All right. So great comment there, Peter. Really appreciate that. So Mohammed on LinkedIn says, in DevOps world, the recruiters require a ton of experience on different tools. How would you suggest to handle this? Example, someone wants work only on Kubernetes or Git or Ansible technologies. Yeah, so Mohammed, totally get what you're saying. So what Mohammed's saying is, look, recruiters are oftentimes very looking for very specific things in terms of what they're looking for in terms of DevOps people, right? People who are DevOps engineers, consultants, etc. So look, my advice to you in regards to that, Mohammed, is look, if they're looking for a specific tool and you have experience with something very similar, just highlight the similarities of this tool or whatever experience they're looking for, right? So let's say they're looking for someone who's worked with, like you mentioned, Kubernetes, and you don't have experience with Kubernetes, you have some experience with something else, maybe Git or Ansible, then talk about Git or Ansible. Just say, hey, Dean, I totally get that you're looking for someone who's well-versed with Kubernetes. My experience has been with Ansible. And look, Ansible and Kubernetes are extremely similar. And, XYZ are the similarities. Basically, someone with Ansible can very easily use and utilize and make use of Kubernetes. And because of that, I still want you to consider me for this opportunity. So what I'm saying, Mohammed, show the similarities, focus on the similarities. Let the recruiter know or the hiring manager know about your transferable ability, that even though you don't have experience with Kubernetes, Ansible or Git or whatever else you're using is very similar. And because of this, you can very easily pick up on what they're using, which is Kubernetes or whatever else technology they're using. So look, focus on the similarities and then show them why, because of those similarities and because of your mastership of whatever it is that you're using, you can very easily apply it and learn and pick up on what they're using at their organization. All right. Great question there, Mohammed. Mohammed, same thing goes for you. If you send me a direct message after the stream, I'd be more than happy to hook you up with my PDF, How to Run a Recruiter Through Your Resume. Great question here. In fact, everyone who asks great questions will get that PDF. All right. So, but just remind me after the stream, send me a direct message and I'd be happy to hook you up with that PDF. All right, how to run a recruiter through your resume. So looks like that's all the questions on LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter and all those other places. Awesome. Krunal says, next time I can join the live stream and would love to notify people in my contacts and tell them here the Dean on Awesome Recruiter. Oh, I really appreciate that, Krunal. And yeah, I'd love to have you on the stream as well. So next time, feel free to send me I think on Instagram, you can send me a request to be on the stream. And I'd love to interact with you live, Krunal. Right, I'd love to interact with you live, answer your questions, and hear more about you. Right, so I appreciate you tuning in, Krunal. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm going to end the stream now. And hey, hit me up with a like and share if you felt you got great value out of today's stream. Appreciate everyone tuning in, and don't forget, every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, I'm going to be right here to help you folks out with job search tips, advice, strategies, and of course, respond to your questions and all that good stuff. And by the way, if you're on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, make sure you follow me. My username on those channels is at DK Tech Recruiter. That's at DK Tech Recruiter on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. All right, so always appreciate any new followers and love interacting with people in the comments over there. My friend Sparrow says, thank you, Dean. Hey, no worries, Sparrow. Always good to have you here. Also a huge fan of Jack Sparrow. All right, so I love the display pic there on YouTube. All right, everyone, have a fantastic week. Keep pushing through, keep taking action, and I'll see you again next week, Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone. All right, everyone, have a fantastic remainder of the week.